The shuttle doors opened with a soft hiss, and Danny Cole stepped onto the deck of Orith Prime for the first time. The air smelled strange, like metal and flowers mixed together. Lights floated overhead without any wires holding them up. Aliens of every shape and size walked past him without a second glance. Danny was 22 years old. He came from a small town in Colorado where the winters were harsh and the mountains touched the sky. Now he stood on a space station bigger than any city he had ever seen, surrounded by creatures he had only read about in briefing documents. He was one of the first humans ever accepted into the Volantis Interstellar Academy. Humanity had only joined the Galactic Concord 3 years ago, and most species still thought of Earth as some backwater planet on the edge of known space. Danny knew this. He had prepared himself for it, but knowing something and living it were two very different things. A tall insectoid creature with shimmering green wings approached him. Its voice came out in clicks and hums, but the translator in Danny's ear turned it into flat, mechanical English. "You are the human student. Follow me." Danny grabbed his bag and followed. The creature moved fast on its 6 legs, and Danny had to walk quickly to keep up. They passed through corridors filled with students. Some had scales. Some had fur. Some looked like nothing Danny could describe with human words. Many of them stared at him as he passed. A few whispered to each other. Danny kept his eyes forward and said nothing. The insectoid stopped in front of a small door in the lower section of the residential wing. "Your quarters," it said. "Orientation begins in 2 hours. Do not be late." Then it walked away without another word. Danny opened the door and stepped inside. The room was tiny. There was a bed that looked too short, a desk built for someone with more arms, and a window that showed nothing but the dark metal wall of the station's outer hull. It was not much, but Danny had slept in worse places. He set his bag down and sat on the edge of the bed. He allowed himself one deep breath. Then he got up and started unpacking. 2 hours later, Danny sat in a large hall filled with hundreds of students. The orientation speaker was a Velith named Instructor Kethra. She had the same insectoid body as the one who had guided him earlier, but her wings were darker, and her eyes held a sharpness that made Danny pay attention. She spoke about the history of the academy, the rules, and the expectations. She talked about cooperation between species and the importance of understanding different cultures. When she mentioned that Earth's official classification files were still being processed, a few students glanced at Danny. He pretended not to notice. After the orientation ended, Danny made his way to the dining hall. He was not hungry, but he knew he needed to eat. The food options were strange. Most of it looked like colored paste or cubes of something he could not identify. He picked what looked safest and found a seat at an empty table in the corner. He was halfway through his meal when someone sat down across from him. The creature had 4 arms, pale blue skin, and large dark eyes that blinked slowly. It was smaller than Danny, and it moved with a nervous energy that reminded him of a rabbit. "You are the human," it said. Its voice was soft and careful. "I am," Danny replied. "I am Sulveth. I am Draenei. I study here also." The creature paused, all 4 of its hands fidgeting on the table. "I wanted to say welcome, and also to warn you." Danny set down his eating utensil. "Warn me about what?" Sulveth looked around the hall, then leaned closer. "There are groups here. Factions. Some of them do not like new species. They think you have not earned your place." Sulveth's eyes darted toward the far side of the room. "The Korvathi are the worst. They have traditions, bad ones." Danny followed Sulveth's gaze. Across the hall, a group of reptilian creatures sat together at a long table. They were tall and lean, with scales that shifted between green and black. Their leader sat at the center. He was bigger than the others, and his eyes were fixed directly on Danny. "That one is Vorath Kes," Sulveth whispered. "He is from a powerful family in the Korvathi Dominion. He does not like anyone he considers beneath him. And right now, he is looking at you." Danny looked back at Vorath. The reptilian's mouth curved into something that might have been a smile. Then he turned to his companions and said something that made them all laugh. "What kind of traditions?" Danny asked, still watching. Sulveth hesitated. "They call it marking. When they decide someone is weak, they put a symbol on them. It tells everyone that person is prey. After that, they make life very difficult until the person leaves the academy. Danny nodded slowly. He had dealt with bullies before. Back home, there had been kids who thought being bigger made them better. Danny had learned early that size was not everything. Patience mattered more. Endurance mattered more. "Thank you for telling me," he said to Sulveth. The Drene looked surprised. "You are not worried?" Danny picked up his utensil and continued eating. "I did not say that. But worrying does not change what is coming. I would rather be ready." Sulveth stared at him for a long moment. Then, slowly, it nodded. "You are strange, human. But I think I like you." For the first time since arriving, Danny smiled. "Call me Danny." That night, Danny lay in his small bed and stared at the ceiling. He thought about Vorath Kess and the cold look in those reptilian eyes. He thought about the students who had whispered as he walked past. He thought about his home, about the mountains and the snow, and the feeling of wind cutting through his jacket during winter hunts with his father. His father had taught him many things. How to track, how to wait, how to stay calm when everything inside you wanted to run. Those lessons had kept Danny alive more than once. This place was different from home. The dangers wore different faces, but danger was danger, and Danny had been living with it his whole life. He closed his eyes and let sleep take him. Tomorrow, he would learn the layout of the station. He would memorize the patrol schedules and the locations of the cameras. He would study his enemies and find their weaknesses. Because Danny Cole was not just a student from Earth, he was a survivor. And survivors did not wait for trouble to find them, they prepared. 2 weeks passed. Danny learned the rhythms of the academy. He woke early, attended his classes, studied in the library, and returned to his quarters before the corridors grew too empty. He kept his head down and his eyes open. His classes went well. The physics course was challenging but fascinating. Xenobiology was even better. Danny spent hours learning about the different species of the galaxy, their strengths and weaknesses, their pressure points and vulnerabilities. He told himself it was just curiosity. Deep down, he knew it was preparation. Sulveth became his only real friend. The nervous Draenei had a good heart and a sharp mind. They ate meals together and studied together. Sulveth helped Danny understand the social rules of the academy, and Danny helped Sulveth with the courage to speak up in class. But no matter how careful Danny was, he could not avoid Vorath Kess forever. It happened on a quiet afternoon. Danny was walking back to his quarters after a lecture when he turned a corner and found 5 Korvathi blocking the corridor. Vorath stood at the center, his scales shimmering under the lights. His companions flanked him on both sides, their tails swaying slowly behind them. "Human," Vorath said. His voice was smooth and cold. "We have been watching you." Danny stopped. He kept his hands relaxed at his sides. "I noticed." Vorath tilted his head. "You think you belong here. You think you have earned a place among us. But you are nothing. Your species crawled out of the mud only yesterday. You do not deserve to stand in the same halls as the Korvathi." I mana. Danny said nothing. He had learned long ago that silence made some people angrier than words ever could. Vorath stepped closer. He was taller than Danny by at least a foot. His claws clicked against the metal floor. "We have a tradition," he said. "When we see weakness, we mark it. So everyone knows." One of the other Korvathi moved forward. In its claws, it held a small device that glowed with pale blue light. Before Danny could react, the creature pressed the device against his bag. There was a soft hiss, and when the device pulled away, a glowing symbol remained on the fabric. It pulsed like a heartbeat. "Now everyone will know what you are," Vorath said. "Pray." Danny looked at the mark on his bag. Then he looked at Vorath. "Take it off." Vorath laughed. The sound was harsh and sharp. "Or what? You will fight us? One soft little human against 5 Korvathi warriors?" He leaned down until his face was inches from Danny's. "You would not last 10 seconds. Danny held his gaze. I asked politely. "Take it off." Something flickered in Vorath's eyes. Surprise. Maybe. Or confusion. He had expected fear. He had expected begging. Instead, he got a calm request. The confusion lasted only a moment. Then Vorath's claws shot out and shoved Danny hard against the wall. The impact knocked the breath from Danny's lungs. "Know your place, human," Vorath hissed. Then he turned and walked away. His companions followed, their laughter echoing down the corridor. Danny stayed against the wall until he could breathe again. Then, he picked up his bag, looked at the glowing mark, and walked to his quarters. The next few days were difficult. Word of the markings spread quickly through the academy. Students who had once ignored Danny now actively avoided him. In the dining hall, tables emptied when he sat down. In class, no one would partner with him for group work. Messages appeared on his personal terminal, threatening and cruel. His quarters were vandalized twice. The first time, someone had scratched insults into his door. The second time, they had broken inside and destroyed his notes. Sulveth was the only one who stayed. The Draenei was terrified. Danny could see that clearly. But Sulveth refused to abandon him. "You should report this," Sulveth said one evening. They were sitting in Danny's damaged quarters, trying to piece together his scattered belongings. The instructors could do something. Danny shook his head. "If I report it, I look weak. The harassment will only get worse. Then what will you do?" Danny did not answer right away. He picked up a torn piece of paper and smoothed it out carefully. "On Earth," he said slowly, "we have animals called wolves. They hunt in packs. They are smart and strong and very dangerous. But there is another animal called the human, and the human learned something important a long time ago." Sulveth leaned forward, all four hands clasped together. "What did the human learn?" Danny looked up. His eyes were calm, but there was something hard beneath the surface, something cold. "The human learned that the wolf is only dangerous when it thinks it is the hunter. The moment the wolf realizes it has become the hunted, everything changes." Sulveth stared at him. "What does that mean?" Danny smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "It means, I'm going to be patient. I am going to watch. I am going to learn their patterns and their weaknesses. And when the time is right, I am going to teach Vorath Kes what it feels like to be prey." Sulveth shivered. In that moment, the Draenei realized something important. Danny Cole was not afraid. He had never been afraid. What Sulveth had mistaken for calm acceptance was something else entirely. It was the patience of a predator waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Far across the station, in a secure administrative office, Instructor Kethra sat at her desk. A new file had arrived in her system, marked with priority flags. She opened it and began to read. The file was Earth's official classification report. It had taken 3 years for the Concord's research teams to complete their assessment of the human homeworld. Kethra had expected something ordinary. A temperate world, perhaps. Maybe some minor environmental challenges. What she read made her stop breathing. The report described a world of constant danger, extreme temperatures, violent weather, predators on every continent, diseases that evolved faster than medicine could keep up, a gravity strong enough to crush most species, an atmosphere so rich in oxygen that the entire planet was essentially waiting to catch fire. And the humans. The report described them as persistence predators. They had evolved to chase their prey across impossible distances, for hours or even days, until their targets collapsed from exhaustion. They could survive injuries that would kill most species. They formed tribal bonds so strong they would die for strangers. They feared almost nothing because they had grown up surrounded by everything that could kill them. At the bottom of the report, stamped in red, was a classification that Kethra had only seen twice in her entire career. Class 12 Deathworld. Kethra closed the file. Her hands were shaking. She thought about Danny Cole. The quiet human boy who sat in the back of the lecture hall. The one who had been marked by the Korvathi. The one who was being hunted. "Oh no," she whispered. The Korvathi had no idea what they had provoked. Instructor Kethra called an emergency meeting the next morning. The senior council of the academy gathered in a secure chamber deep within the administrative wing. There were 7 of them in total, representing the most powerful species in the galactic concord. Kethra stood before them. The classification file displayed on a holographic screen behind her. "This is Earth," she said. "The homeworld of humanity. I received the full assessment report last night, and I believe it is urgent that we discuss its contents." A council member from the Velari, a species of tall crystalline beings, spoke first. "We have had human observers for 3 years. What could possibly be urgent?" Kethra touched a control, and the screen filled with data. Images of Earth appeared. Hurricanes swirling across blue oceans. Mountains covered in snow. Deserts where the temperature reached levels that would cook most species alive. Jungles filled with creatures that had more teeth than seemed reasonable. "Earth has been classified as a Class 12 death world," Kethra said. The chamber went silent. A Korvathi council member, an older male with faded scales, leaned forward. "That is not possible. Class 12 is reserved for worlds that are actively hostile to sapient life, worlds where survival is measured in hours, not years. And yet humans have lived there for over 200,000 years," Kethra replied. "Not just survived, thrived. They became the dominant species on their planet." She began reading from the report. Earth's gravity was 1.4 times the galactic standard. Most species would struggle to stand upright on the surface. Humans ran marathons there for recreation. The atmosphere contained 21% oxygen, a concentration high enough to make the entire planet a fire hazard. Humans breathed it without thinking. The planet experienced extreme seasonal shifts due to its axial tilt. Temperatures could range from -60 degrees to over 50 degrees depending on location and time of year. Humans adapted. They built shelters. They made clothing. They kept going. The diseases on Earth evolved faster than anywhere else in known space. New pathogens emerged constantly, killing millions. Humans developed medicine, fought back, and continued to multiply. And then there were the predators. Earth had no shortage of creatures that wanted to eat humans. Large cats, bears, wolves, sharks, crocodiles, venomous snakes and spiders and insects. For most of human history, they had been surrounded by things that could kill them. They had killed them back. But the most significant detail, Kethra said, her voice dropping lower, is how humans hunt. She displayed a new set of images. Ancient humans, running across open grassland. Their prey, a large 4-legged animal, visible in the distance. Humans are persistence predators. They do not have claws. They do not have fangs. They are not particularly fast or strong compared to their prey, but they have something else. Endurance. She let the word hang in the air. A human can run for hours without stopping. Days, if necessary. They track their prey, follow it, never letting it rest. Eventually, the prey collapses from exhaustion, and then the human catches up. The Velari council member spoke again, its crystalline voice trembling slightly. "They run their prey to death?" "Yes," Kethra said. "And they have been doing it for hundreds of thousands of years. It is built into their biology, their psychology. They do not give up. They do not stop. They endure." The chamber was very quiet now. The Korvathi council member spoke slowly. "We have a human student at this academy." "Yes," Kethra said. "His name is Danny Cole. And 2 weeks ago, your people marked him." The silence became heavier. That afternoon, Danny reported to the combat training hall for his scheduled session. It was a required course. All students had to demonstrate basic self-defense skills, regardless of their field of study. Danny had kept a low profile in these sessions. He participated when required and avoided drawing attention. But today, when he entered the hall, he found Vorath Kess waiting for him. The Korvathi stood in the center of the training floor. Beside him was the combat instructor, a bulky reptilian from a species Danny did not recognize. "Today we have a special demonstration," the instructor announced. A sparring match between two students from very different backgrounds. Vorath Kess of the Korvathi Dominion and Danny Cole of Earth. Danny looked at Vorath. The Korvathi was smiling. "The rules are simple," the instructor continued. "First, to yield, or first, to be unable to continue. Light contact only. Begin when ready." Danny walked to the center of the floor. He could feel the eyes of every student in the room on him. They expected this to be short. They expected him to lose. Vorath cracked his neck and raised his claws. "I am going to enjoy this, human." Danny said nothing. He settled into a loose stance, his weight balanced, his hands open. Vorath attacked. The Korvathi was fast, his claws sliced through the air, aiming for Danny's face. Danny stepped back, letting the strike pass inches from his nose. Vorath followed with a second attack, then a third. Each time, Danny moved just enough to avoid contact. The watching students began to murmur. This was not how prey was supposed to behave. Vorath grew frustrated. His attacks became harder, faster. He landed a blow to Danny's ribs that sent pain shooting through his chest. Danny stumbled but did not fall. He kept his feet. He kept moving. Another blow caught his shoulder. Danny absorbed it and kept going. "Why will you not fall?" Vorath snarled. He struck again, connecting with Danny's jaw. Blood appeared on Danny's lip. Danny wiped it away. "Because I have been hit harder than that, by things you cannot imagine." Something shifted in the room. The students leaned forward. Even the instructor seemed uncertain now. Vorath lunged with everything he had. It was a powerful strike, meant to end the fight. But it was also wild and uncontrolled. Danny had been waiting for it. He sidestepped at the last moment, letting Vorath's momentum carry him forward. As the Korvathi passed, Danny's hand shot out and struck a precise point on Vorath's neck, exactly where his xenobiology studies had told him the nerve cluster would be. Vorath collapsed. He hit the ground hard, his body twitching, his claws scraping uselessly against the floor. He was conscious but unable to move properly. The nerve strike had disrupted his motor control. Danny stood over him. The room was completely silent. "Yield," Danny said quietly. Vorath stared up at him with wide, uncomprehending eyes. For the first time since they had met, there was no arrogance in them. Only shock. "I yield," Vorath whispered. Danny nodded. Then he reached down and offered his hand to help the Korvathi up. Vorath did not take it. Danny shrugged, turned, and walked out of the training hall without another word. In the observation deck above, Instructor Kethra watched him go. The classification file was still fresh in her mind. Persistence predators, she thought. They do not give up. They do not stop. She looked at the stunned faces of the students below, at Vorath Kess still lying on the floor, at the empty doorway where Danny had disappeared. And they do not lose. Word spread through the academy like fire through dry grass. The human had defeated a Korvathi warrior in single combat. Not through brute strength. Not through superior speed, but through patience, endurance, and a single precise strike that had brought down a predator twice his size. Some students began looking at Danny differently. Where they had once seen a weak outsider, they now saw something they could not quite understand. A few even nodded to him in the corridors. Small acknowledgments, quiet respect, but others grew more hostile. The Korvathi faction refused to accept what had happened. They whispered among themselves, their scales dark with anger. Vorath Kess had been humiliated. Their tradition of marking had been challenged. This could not stand. Danny knew it was not over. He had embarrassed Vorath in front of the entire academy. A creature like that would not simply accept defeat. He would come back. And when he did, he would not play fair. So Danny prepared. He spent his free hours walking the station, memorizing every corridor and maintenance tunnel. He studied the patrol patterns of the security officers. He noted which cameras covered which areas and which corners were blind spots. He was not planning to attack anyone, but he wanted to be ready if someone attacked him. Sulveth watched these preparations with growing concern. The Draenei had never seen anything like it. "You are acting like you expect a war," Sulveth said one evening. Danny was examining a map of the lower maintenance levels on his terminal. "Not a war," he said. "Just a battle. One more. Maybe the last one. How do you know there will be another one?" Danny looked up. "Because I know what it is like to lose in front of everyone you respect. Vorath cannot let that stand. He will try again. And this time, he will make sure no one is watching." 3 days later, Danny received a message on his terminal. It was from Sulveth, asking him to meet in the lower maintenance tunnels to discuss something urgent. Danny read the message twice. Then he checked the sender code. It was not Sulveth. Someone had spoofed the message, made it look like it came from his friend. They wanted to lure him somewhere isolated, somewhere without cameras or witnesses. Danny smiled grimly. He had been expecting something like this. He sent a quick message to the real Sulveth, telling his friend not to worry if he was gone for a few hours. Then he grabbed a small flashlight, tucked it into his pocket, and headed for the maintenance tunnels. The tunnels were dark and cold. Pipes ran along the walls, carrying water and air to different parts of the station. The floor was metal, grating that clanged with every step. There were no cameras down here, no security patrols. Danny walked slowly, his footsteps deliberate. He was not trying to be quiet. He wanted them to know he was coming. He found them in a wide junction where 4 tunnels met. Vorath Kess stood in the center, flanked by 5 Korvathi warriors. Their scales seemed to glow faintly in the dim light. Their eyes reflected like mirrors. "You came," Vorath said. His voice echoed off the metal walls. "I thought you might be smarter than that." Danny stopped at the edge of the junction. He counted the Korvathi. 6 total, including Vorath. Bad odds by any measure. "I got your message," Danny said. "Nice trick with the sender code." Vorath stepped forward. "You embarrassed me in front of the entire academy. You made me look weak. That cannot go unanswered. So you brought your friends to help," Danny said. 6 against 1. That seems fair." "Fair?" Vorath laughed. "You are prey. Prey does not deserve fair." Danny nodded slowly. "On my world," he said, "we have a saying. You are not the predator until you have caught your prey." He reached into his pocket and pulled out the flashlight. The Korvathi tensed, expecting a weapon. Danny held it up for them to see. "Just a light," he said. "Want to see something interesting?" Before anyone could respond, Danny turned off the flashlight and threw it down the tunnel behind him. The junction went completely dark. The Korvathi could see in low light, but not in total darkness. Without any source of illumination, they were blind. Danny was not. He had spent 3 days walking these tunnels in the dark. He knew every pipe, every turn, every uneven section of grating. He did not need to see. He could navigate by memory and sound alone. The first Korvathi went down before it even knew Danny had moved. A strike to the knee dropped it to the ground. A second strike to the back of the neck ensured it stayed there. Panic erupted. The Korvathi shouted to each other, their voices bouncing off the walls. They swung their claws wildly, hitting nothing but air. Danny moved among them like a ghost. He used their own momentum against them, redirecting charges and letting them crash into each other. He targeted joints and pressure points, disabling without killing. One by one, they fell. In less than 2 minutes, 5 Korvathi lay groaning on the ground. Only Vorath remained standing. The leader was breathing hard. His claws swept the darkness, searching for a target he could not find. "Where are you?" he snarled. "Face me like a warrior." Danny's voice came from directly behind him. "I am facing you." Vorath spun and slashed. His claws caught Danny's arm, tearing through fabric and skin. Blood spattered on the metal floor. Danny looked at the wound. 3 deep scratches ran from his elbow to his wrist. It hurt badly. But he had felt worse. On Earth, Danny said, we call that a scratch. He moved before Vorath could react. A low kick swept the Korvathi's legs out from under him. As Vorath fell, Danny caught his arm and twisted, pinning him face down on the grating. Vorath struggled, but Danny's grip was like iron. The human's knee pressed into the Korvathi's back, holding him in place. You marked me as prey, Danny said quietly. You harassed me. You vandalized my quarters. You turned the entire academy against me. And tonight, you tried to ambush me in the dark. He leaned closer. But you forgot something important. On my world, the darkness is not a weapon. It is home. We evolved there. We learned to fear it. And then we learned to master it. Vorath had stopped struggling. His breath came in short, terrified gasps. I am not going to kill you, Danny said. I am not even going to hurt you more than I already have. But I want you to remember this moment. I want you to remember what it feels like to be helpless, to be prey. He released Vorath and stood up. Stay down, Danny said. All of you. I am going to walk out of here. And you are going to stay exactly where you are until I am gone. Do you understand? No one answered. No one needed to. Danny picked up his flashlight, turned it on, and walked away. Behind him, 6 Korvathi lay in the darkness, trying to understand what had just happened. 30 minutes later, Danny walked into the medical bay and calmly told the attending physician that he had been attacked and had defended himself. The physician, a Velith with trembling hands, scanned his wounds and began treatment. This toxin on the claws, the physician said, sounding confused. It should have paralyzed you within seconds. How are you still conscious? Danny shrugged. I have had worse bee stings. The physician stared at him for a long moment. Then it returned to its work without another word. In the maintenance tunnels, station security found 6 Korvathi students. Their injuries were documented. Their statements were taken. Every single one of them confirmed the same story. They had attacked the human had defended himself, and somehow, impossibly, the human had won. The academy was in chaos. Rumors flew through the corridors faster than light through space. Some said the human had killed 6 Korvathi warriors with his bare hands. Others said he had used some kind of secret weapon. A few claimed he was not human at all but some kind of engineered super soldier sent to infiltrate the Concord. The truth, as always, was simpler and stranger than any rumor. 3 days after the incident in the tunnels, Instructor Kethra addressed the entire student body in the Grand Assembly Hall. Every seat was filled. Every eye was focused on the stage where the Velith instructor stood. Her wings folded tightly against her back. I have called this assembly to discuss recent events, Kethra began, and to share information that should have been made public much sooner. She touched a control, and a holographic image of Earth appeared behind her. The blue and green planet rotated slowly, clouds swirling across its surface. This is Earth, the homeworld of humanity. For 3 years, we have treated humans as newcomers, as primitives, as a species that had not yet proven itself worthy of standing among us. She paused, letting her compound eyes sweep across the assembly. We were wrong. The murmuring in the hall died away. Earth has been officially classified as a Class 12 death world. For those unfamiliar with the classification system, this is the highest danger rating we assign. It means that the planet is actively hostile to sapient life. It means that survival there is not expected. Images began flashing on the screen behind her. Hurricanes, volcanoes, predators with massive teeth, microscopic organisms that could kill in hours. Humans evolved on this world, Kethra continued. They did not merely survive. They became the dominant species. They conquered every environment on their planet. From frozen wastelands to burning deserts, they fought predators, diseases, and each other. They endured things that would have driven any other species to extinction. She looked directly at the section where the Korvathi students sat, and some of you decided to mark one of them as prey. The silence in the hall was absolute. The marking tradition has been practiced at this academy for generations. It is considered a test of strength, a way to weed out those who do not belong, but it was never meant to be used against students from Deathworlds. It was never meant to be used against persistence predators. She explained what that term meant. She described how humans hunted, how they chased their prey for days without stopping, how their bodies were built for endurance beyond anything the Concord had ever seen. Danny Cole did not fight back because he was angry, Kethra said. He fought back because that is what humans do. They do not give up. They do not surrender. They adapt. They endure. And they overcome. The 6 students who attacked him in those tunnels thought they were predators hunting weak prey. They learned otherwise. The Korvathi section was very quiet. Vorath Kes sat near the back, his scales dull, and his eyes fixed on the floor. Effective immediately, Kethra announced. The marking tradition is banned. Any student who participates in it will face immediate expulsion. Additionally, the Korvathi student faction has been placed on probation, pending review of their conduct. She stepped back from the podium. That is all. You are dismissed. Later that day, Danny was summoned to the council chamber. He walked through the doors expecting punishment, or at least a stern warning about the injuries he had inflicted. Instead, he found the 7 council members waiting to commend him. You defended yourself with restraint, the Valari council member said. You caused no permanent injuries. You exposed a dangerous tradition that should have been eliminated long ago. The Korvathi council member nodded slowly. Your actions were justified. The fault lies with those who attacked you, not with you. Instructor Kethra stepped forward. The council has agreed to offer you a position as a student liaison. When future human exchange students arrive, you will help them navigate the academy. You will be their guide, their protector, and their advocate. Danny looked around the chamber. A month ago, he had arrived here as an outsider, ignored and looked down upon. Now he was being offered a position of honor. I accept, he said simply. As he turned to leave, the Korvathi council member spoke again. One question, if you will permit it. During the fight in the tunnels, why did you not kill them? You clearly had the ability. Danny paused at the door. Because that is not who I am, he said. Humans can be violent. We have fought terrible wars against each other. But we have also learned that strength is not just about what you can destroy, it is about what you choose not to destroy. He left the council chamber without looking back. That evening, there was a knock on Danny's door. He opened it to find Vorath Kes standing alone in the corridor. The Korvathi's scales were dull, and his posture was different. Smaller somehow. Less aggressive. May I speak with you? Vorath asked. His voice was quiet. Danny stepped aside and let him in. Vorath stood in the center of the small room, his claws clasped together in front of him. I have been expelled, he said. The hearing was this afternoon. My father is furious. My family's honor is damaged. Everything I worked for is gone. Danny waited. I came to ask you a question, Vorath continued. During all of it, the marking, the harassment, the ambush, you never lost control. You never panicked. You never seemed afraid. How? Danny sat down on his bed. I was afraid, he said. Every single day. From the moment I arrived here, I was terrified. I was alone on a station full of aliens who saw me as nothing. I was targeted by people who wanted to break me. I was in danger constantly. Vorath stared at him. But you never showed it. That is the secret, Danny said. Humans do not fight because we are not afraid. We fight because we have spent our entire existence being afraid. We grew up on a world that wanted to kill us every single day. We learned to be scared and to keep going anyway. Fear is not weakness. Fear is fuel. Vorath was silent for a long time. Then he nodded slowly. I underestimated you. I underestimated your entire species. I see that now. What will you do now? Danny asked. Return home. Face my family. Try to rebuild. Vorath moved toward the door. Perhaps someday I will learn what you have learned. How to endure. How to keep going when everything is against you. He paused at the doorway. Goodbye, Danny Cole. I do not think we will meet again, but I will not forget you. Then he was gone. Later that night, Danny sat in the observation lounge, looking out at the stars. The galaxy stretched out before him, infinite and unknowable. Sulveth found him there and sat down beside him. Are you all right? Sulveth asked. Danny nodded. Just thinking. About what? About home. About my father. He taught me a lot when I was young. How to track. How to hunt. How to stay calm when everything inside you is screaming to run. Sulveth listened quietly. He told me once that the wilderness does not care about you. It does not hate you. It does not love you. It just is. And if you want to survive, you have to accept that. You have to stop fighting against it and start learning from it. Danny looked out at the stars. This place is not so different. The galaxy is just another kind of wilderness. And I have always been good at surviving. Sulveth considered this. On my world, we have a saying. The softest creatures are often the strongest, because they have learned to bend without breaking. Danny smiled. On my world, we just say what does not kill you makes you stronger. Sulveth laughed, a strange chirping sound that Danny had grown to enjoy. Your people have a dark sense of humor. We have to, Danny said. It is how we survive. They sat together in comfortable silence, watching the stars drift past. And Danny thought about Colorado, about mountains and snow, and the cold, clear air of winter mornings. He thought about his father and the lessons he had learned. He thought about everything he had endured to get here. He was a long way from home. But for the first time since arriving, he felt like he belonged. Not because the galaxy had accepted him, but because he had proven, to himself and to everyone else, that he was strong enough to stand on his own. He was Danny Cole. He was human. He was a survivor. And this was just the beginning.